Welcome to Justice, a lawyer's hangout, where we dissect legal issues and educate the public on the law. I am Chizaram Lilian Oike, and with me here today is my colleague, Mr. Ariubi Esquire. Thank you, sir, for being here. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being on the shoot today.
Oh, thank you, Chizaram. I'm happy
Yes,
to be here today.
thank you so much. Thank you. On today's episode, we turn the spotlight to the constitutional debate that never seems to fade, the right to protest and the limits of government control. Now, we have seen that in recent weeks, the Free Nnamdi Kanu protests have once raised the big deal question. Now, when does protest become a public disorder? Can the government lawfully restrict or suspend the right to assemble? And interestingly, are lawyers ethically permitted to protest while a case is still before the court? Now, let's unpack these issues together as we examine the boundaries of the right to assemble in Nigeria. Now, let's dive into it. Mr. Ariubi, yes, I don't know if I pronounce that correctly. So, Mr. Aribi, Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution guarantees every Nigerian the right to assemble and associate freely. However, as we know, this right is not absolute. Now, Mr. Aribi, what are the constitutional and statutory boundaries that define when governments can lawfully restrict or suspend the right to peaceful assembly in Nigeria?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Please repeat that again because the
Yeah,
network was fluctuating
yes,
before.
I was asking when can can the government lawfully restrict or suspend the right to peaceful assembly in Nigeria, sir?
Yes, thank you for that. Well, when we talk about protest in Nigeria, we should
Yes,
understand, or anywhere anywhere around the world, we should
yes,
understand that protest is allowed
yes,
lawfully under the law. In
right,
fact, as we have said, Section 40 of the Constitution is clear with respect to that.
right,
However, as we normally see under the law, in every general rule, there is always an exception. And the exception to peaceful protest or to showcasing your grievances or opinion or demand from the government
right,
is also restricted by looking at what section 45 when it has to do with public safety, public
right,
morality, as well as national security. So in
right,
that situation, the law allows the government to come in and regulate how the protest
right,
though it can do of the court.
right,
You understand?
right.
So the court has to reach out so them constitutionally as meant to do into.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that input. Now, let's look at the ongoing Free Nnamdi Kanu protest that reignited debates over whether demonstrations can become threats to national security or public order. Now, from a constitutional standpoint, how should courts balance the rights to protest against the government's duty to maintain peace and security? Yes, I can hear you, sir. I can hear you, Miss Aribi. Are you there? Yes. Yes, I said, looking at the Nnamdi Kanu protests that have reignited debates over whether
Yes, I'm here with you. I
demonstrations.
can hear you, please.
Yes. I said the ongoing Nnamdi Kanu's protests have reignited debates over whether demonstrations can become threats to national security or public disorder or public order rather. Now, from a constitutional standpoint, how should courts balance the right to protest against government's duty to maintain peace and security?
Yes, that's an excellent point. And this
Right.
is where theory normally meets reality. So the
Right.
theory, the theoretical part of it is that yes, everybody has the right to protest, as we have said, as a citizen, and it is guaranteed
Right.
under the Constitution. However, when it comes to protest itself, or lawful protest, there are also some other restrictions which
Right.
is provided under the Constitution. Therefore, when it now comes to our court, the court always try to strike a balance between what is lawful and what is
Right.
proportionate. So the court normally look at reasonableness of that protest, whether it
Right.
is going to be reasonable, whether it's going to be lawful, it's going to be within the confines to proceed further. As I've said, you can understand that when it comes to protest, the law or even our courts don't actually ban it entirely. What they normally do is to restrict it within the confines of the law. So what the court normally look at is the reasonableness of that protest. So when all this is in place, then the law and the court always try to strike a balance within that. Now, the conclusion on that is that even the police or the military personnel, they are not allowed to restrict anybody from protesting. So far, it is done lawfully, it is done peacefully, and it is done within the confines of the law. And this is what our court has always been saying.
Right. Thank you so much for pointing that out and for making the viewers understand that before what the court looks at is the reasonableness and the balance of the protest. Now, also, in what circumstances, like, can the courts lawfully refuse or limit an application for a protest or a procession or an assembly? And what guiding principles should judges apply in distinguishing between a legitimate process and a potential public disorder?
Well, when it comes to trying to justify our balance between the two,
Right.
there is always a blurry line between them. Because
Right.
what we normally look at is just the intelligence information, especially the information or the evidence, the exhibit that whoever is applying to the court can place before the court. And you know,
Right.
when it comes to seeking injunction, basically it starts with expert, who are the only party that approach the court. So in this case, it is that is going to rely on to decide that. Now, let's take, for example, when the NSAS protest started, we all understand that it started peacefully, it started lawfully, and it is within the confines of the law. In that situation, even if you approach the court with evidence that there is going to be imminent threat to the national security, we are very clear with that as at that time, the court in Nigeria will not grant such application. However, when it started getting to the point of some hoodlums engaging in the NSAS, dissociating it from the lawful means of why it is done in the first place.
Right.
Then if you approach the court in that instance, seeing the looting, seeing the destruction of property, then that is what the court will now be looking at as the evidence to now say, in this case, we have to restrict or to stop such protests. So this is what the court normally, as I said, there is always a blurry line when it comes to that restriction or deciding on it, but based on the evidence before the court.
Right, like you mentioned, the one of the principles that the court has to look at is the legality of the protest. We have also the necessity of the protest and the proportionality of the protest. Now let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Camera rolling. Light set. Sound check. And action.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's program.
A program where we get to talk about the daily happenings around the
legal
world.
issues with intent to educate.
This is the perfect space to create professional quality videos, recording news, podcasts, and all media content. With top-of-the-line cameras, studio lighting, soundproof spaces, we provide everything you need for a seamless shoot. Our fully equipped studio ensures high-quality production every time. Enjoy a comfortable, air-conditioned environment with professional-grade gear and expert support. Contact us now or visit our Abuja location to reserve your spot.
Welcome back. Now, before the break, we explored the constitutional and judicial dimensions of the protest. Now, let's turn to the ethical and practical side, the role of lawyers and the limitation of the government's regulations. Now, there have been public opinions suggesting that lawyers representing a client whose case is before the court should not join in a protest concerning the same matter as seen in the Nnamdi Kanu situation. Now, Mr. Aribi, are lawyers ethically or professionally precluded from protesting on issues that are sub judice, or is such restrictions itself a breach of their constitutional rights?
Thank you for that question.
Yes,
Firstly,
thank you.
we all need to understand that when it comes to issue of this nature, this is an ethical dilemma.
Right.
And as a lawyer, I always advocate that for lawyers, we need to maintain decorum. We need to maintain standard of the profession. No
Right.
doubt, before we all become a lawyer, we are a citizen of Nigeria. And as we have said before, the Constitution guarantees everybody's right to expression of opinion. You
Right.
understand?
Right.
However, at the same time, we need to be very careful because the same profession also have what we call rules of professional conduct. And if you check, I think under rules 130 and 31, it explains what is expected of a lawyer, particularly to the court. Now, as a lawyer, even though you have the right of protest, let's say, for example, you are engaging in a protest, on a general protest with respect to whatever it may be, so far it is not related to the matter you have before the court.
Right.
It is your right. Under the law, under the Constitution, you are protected. However, when it comes to a matter before the court, that is a doctrine of sub judice. You are trying to play to the gallery. You are trying to seek public sympathy or opinion with respect to that same matter you are handling. So
yes.
ethically, it is not allowed for a lawyer that is having a matter before the court to be the one engaging directly in that protest. Let's say, for example, in this Nnamdi Kanu's case, which is very clear, the lawyer that is joining the protest is also the same person that is appearing amongst the court. So it is not allowed for him to be protest. It will be a different. It's not the lawyers appearing before the court and I engage in protest, which is allowed. But immediately the court, in one way or the other, ethically, that is against the rules of professional conduct. In fact, apart from the fact that maybe it may be termed as a criminal offense, it can still be termed as something against our rules of professional conduct, and it may be tried by the Practitioner Additional Committee.
Right. To agree with what you said, this issue is a gray area requiring ethical judgments, like you said. And like you mentioned, lawyers must balance their citizens' rights with their professional duties to the legal profession and the court. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Now, Mr. Ribi, what legal tests or precedents exist for determining when state interference in protest becomes unlawful or unconstitutional? Can the Public Order Acts stand still scrutiny light of modern constitutional guarantees and
yes, in fact, I agree with what you say.
Yes. Right. To be able to identify.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. You can go ahead, sir. I can hear you.
Yes, I'm saying that to add to what we have said before, at least we all understand the recent protest by the Nigerian Bar Association in Lagos State against the military personnel in Lagos, especially for them to defend the provision of the court, where the court made an order and they are violating the order.
Right.
You can see that the NBA Lagos engaged in the protest peacefully, and they walk from a place down to the office of those military personnel to they still confined with the law because they are not in any way in court and they are not doing anything that has to do with the matter they have before the court. So that actually showcases that lawyers too can engage in protest, provided it's not what they have before the court.
Right, right. Now, lastly, given the current situation, the current political and security realities, how can the right to peaceful assembly be protected without compromising public order? Should there be clear judicial guidelines or legislative reforms to protect arbitrary suppression of protests while ensuring accountability of demonstrators?
Well, the fact is that those who actually want to engage in the protest, they have in one way or the other seek for the lawful from the government. That is particular police.
Right.
So in that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, of course.
Yeah, so I'm saying that when it comes to protests, we all understand that the first approach is to notify the necessary authorities.
Right.
That is maybe the police did not have the right to prevent or to refuse the notification given to them. In fact, it's not a permission. It's not as if they're actually seeking permission.
Right.
So when those who are engaging in the protest actually confines with the end of actually confines with
Right.
the law, they engage in their protest peacefully. For example, there is a decision of the court with respect to where they should carry out their protest, and they actually do that within the confines of the law. I don't think
Right.
there is any judicial pronouncement that will come out from that and try to ban them or them protest. Let's take for example in 2012, I think, when we held the protest against subsidy. That was one of the peaceful protests I've ever seen in the country, especially in Lagos that I stay. When people move from their various places to Ojota, that is Ganifa Freedom Park,
Right.
and the protest was peacefully done from beginning till how many days we spare. I was in involvement of the police that will anyway lead of the thing that those
Right.
engaging this by all means to comply with. When it comes to the government on their part, even though Section 45 give power of their extra, that is to limit any constitutional right when it has to do with safety, morality, and same time national security. However, engaging in that, they must also always comply with the law.
Right.
Whatever they are doing must be backed by the law.
Right.
Ultimate aim, person is speaking against their
Right.
own interest. They will now use that as an excuse to restrict them from engaging in that protest. It is not
Right.
allowed. Then,
Right.
thirdly, proportionality.
Yes.
When there is no, for example, let's assume that the so like that they are not dealt in strictly by the court. I don't think there is any reason that the government in any way will be acting contrary to wherever they may be engaging in their protest.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much once again for that very smart input. Now, in short, yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Do you still have any other contribution to make? Okay, if we don't have any more contribution, any more recommendations, thank you very much once again, Mr. Ribi, for that impactful submission. And to our viewers, the right to a peaceful assembly is not just about protest, it's about the participation in democracy. But in most cases, we must coexist with order, security, and respect for the rule of law. The conversation doesn't end here. It continues in our courts, our classrooms, and our communities. Join us next time on Justice and follow us on all social media handles as LJ Nigeria. And until then, bye.